What's up everyone, welcome back. Today we have another Roar Battle for Cortaan collectible card game video. Last time we did one of these, we spoiled some new cards that had not been previously shown to the public anywhere else. The creator of the game loved the video, loved what I did with it, and was gracious enough to give me a couple more cards to show off, so I'm pretty blessed for that. So today I want to go through and just show you what I've gotten to see, and talk about a little bit about what I think it means for the future of the game. As a quick little recap for anyone who this is like their first Roar video that they're checking out, Roar, the Battle for Cortaan collectible card game, is a upcoming trading card game based on a tabletop RPG setting, as well as novel series that the creator has been working on for the last number of years. He's decided to convert it into a card game that will still give you kind of that tabletop RPG, dice rolling, leveling experience, but in a more fast-paced, accessible format. We all know, getting a good RPG party together takes a minute, so just getting an opponent to play a quick game of a card game, much easier to do, but you can still kind of get that same vibe. So let's take a look at what our first card what our first card offers. We've got Azar, the Master Sage. Now, Azar is a 10 cost unit. That blue banner next to his name there means that he is a legendary unit. Now, this rarity is basically it means he's epic. So you've got white cards as common. The banner would be white. There are red banners for rares, blues for epics, and purples for legendaries. So he's like the third rarity, second from the top. So he's getting up there. He's I don't know necessarily how like pull rates will break down when the official set comes out. I imagine it will probably be packs include like some number of commons and then a rare or better or something like that. Who knows? But he's at least a little bit rare. So in theory, he should be at least pretty good. So let's see what he does. 10 cost, 4 attack value, 4 accuracy, and 4 health. So he's 4s across the board. The attack value just means he deals 4 damage when he attacks. The white dice there means he has to roll at least a 4, or sorry, no greater than a 4. So a 1, 2, 3, or 4 to hit. And then he has 4 life. He's unique, which means you can only control one of him on your side of the field. It also means that your opponent cannot control one while he is in play. He has the Necromancer keyword, which doesn't do anything as like a keyword itself. It's more like a trait, but I have been told, secret insider info here maybe, but I have been told that there will be some cards that want Necromancers in play, so maybe that's a really good thing. I haven't seen those yet. I don't know what that means, but Necromancer deck is probably a thing. He also has spell resistance. Now, spell resistance on a unit is pretty unique, or at least it is to the cards I've seen so far. The set is like, the main set is going to be like 380 cards or something like that, so it's going to be huge. So it might not end up being that uncommon, but for now, at least as far as what we've seen in the starter deck, it is pretty unique. Normally, this is just on gods. Spell resistance 2 is pretty low, but it does mean that you have a 33% chance of just not getting hit by any spell thrown at you with this guy. So that's still pretty good. I think as a basically the third rarity, if you do like common, uncommon, rare, if this guy was like a rare, I think that's pretty good. I think this guy's cool. Then he has an effect too, which we haven't even talked about. When he is first deployed, enemy players must place the top 2 cards of your deck in the future deck onto the past deck. So, future deck is your main deck, present is like your hand, and the past is your discard pile, graveyard, whatever you want to call it. So basically, you mill the top 2 cards of your deck into your discard pile, or your opponent does, sorry. So, that's fine, right? Milling only 2 cards isn't huge, it's not like the end of the world or anything. But if we have like a dedicated mill deck, that might be, chipping away 2 cards at a time out of 50 cards. You have an opening hand of 7 cards, draw a card a turn. It could very quickly, whittle you down. So it might turn out to be a pretty strong effect depending on what other mill support we get. We have seen a couple cards in the starter deck that have an effect where your opponent has to like do something negative or mill cards from their deck. So it might be, it seems like there's room for there to be a deck that performs that way. Overall, I think this guy is cool. Azar seems powerful, he seems memorable in his effects, and the spell resistance is at least very unique to units at this point. I think this guy's neat. Let's move on. Our next card is a tactic called Surprise Attack. Now, this card I actually think looks kind of cool. It's not like flashy like a lot of the other cards, but a lot of the tactics have this really cool like ambiance to them. There's one of them in the starter deck, Bountiful Harvest, that it costs 3, and you look at the top 5 cards of your deck for a unit and put it in your hand. Great card. Or it might even cost 2. I don't remember. Either way, fantastic card. You should play it. I think it's a 3 of in every deck. However, the art is just like some grain like blowing in the wind. It's a beautiful card. It doesn't look anything like a lot of the other cards, and this one is very similar. This kind of like map look effect that it's got going on does not look like the rest of the cards. I think it's neat. I think this will look really cool printed out and like in a deck of cards. So just aesthetics aside, this one is a red, so that's going to be your rare slot, the second rarity. Like I said, my guess is that it's going to be something like any number of commons in a pack, and then like a rare or better. Maybe it'll be better than that. I kind of hope pull rates will be better than that. It'll be kind of hard to pull good stuff if that's how it works. I think it'd be cool if it's like, you know, say it was like a 10 card pack, say it was 6 commons, 3 rares, and then a legendary or better. Like that would be kind of cool too. Who knows, epic or better. We'll see what it is that he wants to do with those. But this is your uncommon slot, or your maybe one per pack, whatever. Surprise Attack. Target friendly assaulting units gain preemptive strike this turn. Now, a thing with this that is deceiving, per se, is Surprise Attack doesn't quite fit. The title of this seems a little bit off. So the fact that this is a tactic and doesn't have the keyword that it needs to be able to be played at like a instant timing, this would be like a main phased card. You have to have like retort to play quickly. So you would play this card and then attack with cards. So it's not so much like a surprise attack, it's like building up, it's almost like a planned strike or something. But either way, it essentially means that every unit you attack with this turn gets preemptive strike, which is just like first strike in Magic, where they deal their damage first when fighting against other units. So that's cool. And it's all turn long, so that's nice too. Either way, semantics over name or whatever, I think this is a cool card. For 3, giving all of your dudes preemptive strike is really strong. I think this is a great card. I will run this. Not a lot to say about it otherwise, though. Just combat tricks are good. So it's not so much a combat trick, because you like sort of like calling a shot, but it's still going to make a turn where you're planning to do some big damage much stronger. Then we have Strength. This is a 4-cost blue spell. Blue, just like the first guy, is the epic rarity. Divine Power Overflows. This one's an incantation, a retort, like I mentioned. So this one is like instant speed. Target unit may reroll failed combat rolls and does critical damage on successful attacks until end of turn. Cool. So we'll just start from the top. So you can reroll combat rolls. Okay. And this is a retort, so you can use this defensively. The second part of the effect doesn't matter as much for that, but we'll get to that in a sec. So you can reroll failed rolls. So say you're fighting something and you miss, you can roll your dice again. For 4, that's pretty okay, especially if you're really trying to seal some important damage on offense, or if you're trying to fight off a scary attacker while you're defending. Then you also do critical damage on successful attacks. So critical damage is basically double damage if you roll a 1. So that's great. So while you're attacking, you can... and attacking isn't... So like defending is still the same. You're still like attacking the unit that's attacking you. So it will still work there. So you have the option to reroll if you miss and deal extra damage, whether you're attacking offensively or attacking back at an attacker trying to hit you. You have the potential to double damage them if you roll a 1. Very powerful. Yeah, that's pretty good. Being able to get out of a big miss. Sometimes you really need to seal, like clearing a dude off the table, or like just chip in for just enough damage to end the game or whatever, and you miss. A card like this can give you another opportunity to save that. The reroll dice that you can get from Battlegrounds are so important. Having it on a stick like this would also be huge. I imagine this will be a very popular card, especially for 4. That's not a terrible cost. 4 as a retort is a little high, and is a little telegraphed when you start getting up to that much like unspent resources. I worry that this has a little bit of potential to be kind of obvious, but that said, even if it's obvious and people know that that's going to happen, it will still dissuade the way they play their turn, which may be all you need to not lose the game on an attack or something like that. So I think this is a cool card. Interested to see its applications. Ooh, okay. So we've got a white banner here. So this would be your common. So let's take a second, break this down, and see if this is... See how much worse this is than a rare or something like that. 4 cost, Magma Seed. Target enemy units gain vulnerable magma. So, vulnerable, that one is a keyword that is not used at all in the starter deck. So what it means is cards with vulnerable trait take double damage from that type of damage they're vulnerable to. If none are listed, they always take double damage. So if it just says they gain vulnerable, whatever, but this one says magma. So you play this card, a card gets vulnerable magma. If you've played the Pokemon trading card game, that's a lot like weakness, where like a fire type is weak to water and will take double damage against it. This is a similar concept. Also, if the unit is destroyed by magma damage, you can then search your future deck for a magma spirit unit and put it directly onto your battle line, then destroy this card. So that's really cool. So if you destroy something with magma damage, which there are actually plenty of things, even in just the starter deck that we've seen, that do magma damage, so that's great. We're off to a great start. Then you get to search your deck for a magma spirit unit and put it directly onto your battle line, which is just into play. Your battle line is like your creature area. Then destroy this card, so you just get rid of it. A magma spirit, that is a 9 cost unit. It's got decent stats. I think it's like a 2-4-2 for its stats. But I know it's a 9 cost, and it has Furious. It has to attack every turn. But you basically get to pay 4, give something a weakness to magma damage. If you then kill something with magma damage, or if you kill that unit with magma damage, you then get a free play a 9-drop. That's awesome. Now this one is a ritual, so that doesn't mean a ton, but we have already seen a couple cards that will get rid of a ritual. So the way that this will work, you'll like, as you can imagine, you'll play this and it will just stay in play and remain active until the conditions are met. So there are a couple cards that will hit rituals and get them off the table, so this can be hit. Maybe that's why it's only a common. But I feel like this is pretty good. To pay 4 to make something really squishy and then free play a 9 cost card seems strong. I like this card. I think Magma decks will be pretty obvious as like a playable deck in the full set format. At least in the starters, Magma is very present. I imagine imagine we'll see more. I've seen this and a couple other Magma cards already too, so I fully expect to see more of that. I think this card's going to be great. I am very excited for this one. Then, our last card. This one, a purple banner. And this is an epic. A legendary. I keep getting those backwards. Epic is blue. This is legendary, so this is like the hardest rarity to pull. And this is the first god I've gotten to spoil for you guys. And this guy is awesome. Kelvex, the Mad God. He has the regular 24 health starting pool. As far as I know, and as far as G.S. Holloway has confirmed with me, all of the gods have that 24. I did ask if there were any that have like less but a more powerful effect. He said just for balancing sake, they all have that so far. That's fine. I think that's a cool design space to open up, but it is set 1, right? So let's see what it does. Once per turn, you may grant a frenzy to any of your assaulting units that were intercepted. Affected units attack last and return to normal after combat. Spell resistance 3. So let's go ahead and break down Frenzy. Frenzy. Frenzy allows for 2 attack rolls instead of 1 when in combat. This allows for potentially dealing double the amount of damage if both rolls are successful. Cool. So, what does this mean? Once per turn, when one of your units is blocked, that's what intercepted means. When your opponent blocks one of your units, you can decide to make that unit roll 2 dice. If both dice hit, it deals damage twice. Now those units do have to attack last and go back to normal after that combat, so you can't cheese like an extra attack out of them or anything crazy, and you have to go kind of in order breaking them down for the last attack. But still, you can pull off a giant kill. Your opponent you can attack with something kind of small. Your opponent can block with a big unit, and you can attack twice, do enough damage to kill it. Something thinking they weren't going to lose, that guy to block your little weenie. Very powerful. Spell resistance 3, good. I think lore has a 4, but he has corruption, which is fine. Spell resistance and magma. So as we were just talking about, there's another instance of magma already present. I think this guy is awesome. I am excited for his power. I think the most interesting part of this game will come in the ways that you can manipulate combat. Being a dice game, as anyone knows, rolling dice can suck. There are some times where you will play like the best card game you've ever played. Like you set your deck down, you're ready to go, you play everything like optimally, you play on curve, and then you just like whiff every dice roll. And you lose to someone who has like a deck that is much worse than yours, and plays worse than you even, but just nails their dice rolls. And sometimes that's a little unfortunate. So I think the most interesting and redeeming parts of this game will come in cards that allow you to mitigate that in some way. And so cards like this with giving card frenzy or giving cards rerolls, and that's why I think, like I mentioned earlier, those reroll dice that you get from Battlegrounds are so huge, and being able to use those to prevent yourself from missing, to prevent your opponent from hurting you. We've actually seen, I don't know if I can tell you this, but I'm gonna, and if I get in trouble for it, I'll find out later. There's a god that I've been able to see that their effect is when you can use your reroll dice to make your opponent reroll dice instead of rerolling your own. That's a really cool power and can make for a really interesting control deck. So I'm excited to see that, and I think concepts like that will continue to make this game stand out amongst other like dice-based TCGs. Anyway, I don't have too much left to say here. I think all of these cards seem interesting. There have yet to be many cards, if any really, that I've read and been like, this card's just junk. In the starter deck, there are a couple that I'm like, if I'm going to construct a deck, I'm not going to put this in it right now. But every card that I've read, at least, is only, I'm not going to use it right now. There are cards that I think could be better if stuff gets better. There's an aquatic unit in the starter deck who is a little bit cheap for their power, which is fine, but you have to pay 1 to attack with them because they're aquatic. I am not going to run that card very often because your opponent will just not play a aquatic battleground, and then you just can't attack with it unless you pay extra mana or resources. I don't think that's great. I don't want to do that, so I don't run that card very often. However, I think that if you set up like aquatic support and like have an aquatic deck, you can really make that cool. So I don't think there are any cards that are just like inherently bad yet, but I think there are cards that are where like their ability to shine has not been presented yet. This guy, I think, automatically shines. I think it's obvious that he's going to be cool. Making your opponent make worse decisions when blocking you is always very strong. This card, I think, seems really good for a common. We'll see if it ends up being that way, but I think this card is super tight. Also, the art is really cool. This like speckles and flurries behind it look really good. This sort of miasma going on, I'm a big fan of. Strength, I think, is cool too. Rerolling combat rolls that you miss, as I've just been saying for the last 5 minutes. Dice manipulation is going to be incredibly potent in this game, where everything is done with dice. The amount of resources you get for a turn, your attacks are done with dice, your defending is done with dice, your spells are played with dice. Being able to manipulate dice rolls is going to be so important to have in your deck. Surprise attack, giving yourself more advantage in combat is going to be huge too, especially for decks that want to be aggressive. Assaulting means attacking. So this doesn't work on defense, and it doesn't ever tort, so you couldn't play it on your opponent's turn anyway. But giving an aggro deck more of a tool to push their aggression will be good. And as R2, I think, is just fine. 10 cost 4/4 is generic and pretty on curve for 10 cost stats. And he does a little bit extra. I think he'll be fine. But that's it for now for the Roar Battle for Cortaan collectible card game. The newest set of spoilers I've been allowed to show off. I think that's 11 now that I've shown you guys. Technically, it's 8. Because 3 of the ones in my first video he had already posted on the website just previously, but hadn't really like brought any real attention to. So 8 or maybe 11, depending how liberal you want to be with exclusive. But I'm really, really excited to see what this game has to offer. We have seen 50 cards from the starter deck. We have seen 11 cards here. That is 66 cards. And he has shown off a couple of like pictures of print sheets and things like that that have cards that we have yet to see big. And I can kind of make the text out on some of them, but 66 or so of the 380 cards is still like a drop in a pond of what this game has to offer. So I'm so excited to see more of it. Thanks for hanging out and watching a little more of my ramblings about this card game. I hope you check it out. You can still get starter decks on his website. If you just search Roar Battle for Cortaan, it will come right up. I'll also have the link in the video as always, or in the description of the video, as I always do. But for now, that is it for another CCG replay video. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you next time.